Hi, and welcome to Digital for Everyone, a weekly live stream that tries to demystify the digital world topic by topic and explain it so that anyone and everyone can understand it. As always, I'm your host, Robert DeGans, and this week we'll be discussing search engine marketing with everyone. Hey, because there's no other guest, I might need a little bit of help from you guys listening and watching at home or wherever you are. Welcome, Alexander Phoenix and Phoenix Pro. Welcome. Kelly Welly, Amanda, nice to see you. So today's topic, and if some of you have come in late, it's search engine marketing, or SEM in the industry terms. Welcome A1 Ariane. And search engine marketing is the process of marketing your business, or essentially placing ads online where people are searching for it. So it's fundamentally based around keywords. So if you sell bikes, your keywords would be bikes and your ads would show up there, right? The main thing, and why it's actually so important and why I wanted to speak about SEM, is that search engine marketing is unlike any other marketing platform. So Facebook, you have social. Google Display has display ads, but those push ads to people who the system thinks is interested in your product. But when you have a search ad pop up, you're catching that person right when they are looking for you, your product, or your service, and even sometimes your competitor. And that is super valuable, because search engine marketing often has much higher conversion rates than traditional marketing. And for businesses where a customer can be very valuable, insurance agents, car salesmen, that sort of stuff, it's very valuable to catch people where they are searching. Right? So next question is obviously, how does it work? Now, guys, before I go too far into this, what I'm going to ask you to do is a little bit of crowd participation. I don't know if anybody's a fan of that or not, but to give better examples, I'm going to ask you guys to suggest a company. It could be fictitious, it could be real, but let's talk about a company and a product that they supply. And I'm going to take the suggestions from the chat, and I'm going to work it into our explanation here today so that everybody understands it better. All right. Hi, Carly. How are you doing? So, how does search engine marketing work? I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Fundamentally, it's based on keywords. Now, when you think about keywords, there's two things. One, it's not just a singular word. So it's not just your brand name, right? It's phrases. People, for example, if you're looking for an apartment to rent, you don't just search the word apartments. You would search the word apartments for rent near me, or maybe apartments for rent in a specific area. Maybe Diego Martin, Cascade, Chaguanas, Central, South. Those kinds of things help focus in your search and bring you back something more relevant, right? So starting with keywords, I'll get into that actually a little bit later about how to find your keywords. But what I want to touch on is that if you've ever searched on Google, you may have noticed that there's one column you'll see a couple ads at the top, the rest of the listings, and then on the side, you might see a map, and you'll see locations of companies that provide the service that you're looking for. It's pretty popular if you search for like food near me or restaurants near me. That's a great way to localize a search. Now, that is very important, and I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk about that. What those companies have done, and what I highly recommend any one of you guys to do, is to claim your business on Google My Business. It's free, there's no cost to it. It just takes a little bit of time, and you don't actually need any real expertise to do it. Essentially, you're going to head over to business.google.com and you follow the instructions there. That is the simplest way to explain it. It is the most straightforward way to explain it. They will essentially, you enter all your information, where you are, your address, what times you open, what's the name of your business, and they will mail you a little postcard. Postcard has a code on it. That code verifies with them, right? Because you take that code, you enter it back into the system, and that code verifies with them that this person actually, that business actually exists at the place that they said it exists. And then voila, you are now on Google My Business. People can find your business, find out what time you're open, see ratings, see pictures. There's a lot that you can do just with Google My Business to get your business out there. Now, I chose to do SEM on the heels of our SEO talk last week with Chris Granger. Shout out to Chris, thank you for that valuable information, because they often go hand in hand. Making sure that your information is, and your websites and your content is search engine optimized, helps with your search engine marketing. So, right, we spoke about Google My Business and making sure you have your keywords, and let's get back to the matter of hand. Search engine marketing really consists of two parts. You have the ad and you have the keywords that tag that ad. All right. So the biggest question is, well, Robert, how do I find the keywords? What are the keywords? As I mentioned earlier, keywords are not just singular words. They're phrases, they're terms, right? And there are tons of keyword planners out there. Google even gives you one in the process of setting up a search ad. Just so you know, the easiest way to set up a search ad is to go to ads.google.com. It's the same place you set up display ads. I spoke about that a few weeks ago. And Google will give you examples of keywords that should be used. Now, there are 4 main kinds of keywords. Technically 5, but there are 4 main kinds of keywords, right? And from most specific to least specific, they go like this. So I'm going to list them out for you. There are exact match keywords. That's where it's an exact match of the term or very close variation of that term with the same meaning. So for example, if I searched for an exact match keyword of women's hats, my ad would show up for women's hats, it would show up for ladies' hats, it would show up for searches like hats for women. Now, that's important when you have a very specific business or brand or thing that you're selling, that you don't want it to get mixed up with maybe men's hats, kids' hats, things like that. All right? There's phrase match, which is a little broader from the exact match keywords. And what that does is matches the phrase or close variations of the phrase with additional words before or after. So what does that mean? Okay, it sounds really complex, but essentially, if your phrase is still women's hats, blue women's hats will also show up as an ad, right? Buy women's hats or women's hats on sale. Basically, once someone is searching for a phrase searching a string of words that contains your keyword of women's hats, for this example, your ad will show up to them. That's really valuable because sometimes not everyone is just going to search for women's hats. You have to think about, and much like what Chris said, you have to think about what your customer is going to be searching for. Your specific brand name may not be what they search for, but the category of things that you provide is a much more general thing that they would go after. So we've covered exact match, we've covered phrase match. The next one is broad match modifier. Now, it sounds kind of exotic, but basically, it's any order. We have these words, but it doesn't matter what order they show up in, and if there's words between them. So continuing with this women's hats example, right? If my broad match modifier is women's hats, if someone searches for women's scarves and hats, we would get that. If someone searches for winter hats for women, we would get that ad showing up. Now, why is this important? It's important because there are tons of variations. Everybody searches differently. Everybody uses the internet differently. Everybody thinks about using a search engine in a different way. So you want to make sure that you cover all your bases, right? And then finally, there's broad match. Broad match is your catch-all. That allows for misspellings, right, which is fairly often, synonyms, related searches, and other relevant variation. Google has processed billions of searches and has a really good grasp on what people probably mean. Is very often if you mistype something and Google says, "Did you mean to search for this?" We're showing results for what we thought you meant. So Broadmatch helps you really grab any and everything related to that topic that you're on. Guys, if there are any questions at all, please jump in, shout them out in the chat, and I will be happy to answer them. So we have these keywords, right? And you've set up your keywords, you have a broad type of keywords. Generally, we suggest two core types. You want brand, which is every word that's relevant exactly to your brand, and then you want category keywords. So category would have to do, so let's use the women's hats example. Your brand might be Robert's hats, and you will set up and say, okay, I want to make sure that anytime people search for Robert's hats, that my brand comes up always, right? And then maybe I have a digital for everyone style hat. So Robert has this style hat, and we have fedoras. So you want to make sure that your brand, and if they have special names, you capture all of those. So that covers your stuff. Then we cover category type keywords. So that's keywords that aren't owned by anybody, right? That's things that people will use to describe everything that shows up. So for example, cars, right? The category keywords for cars would be car, sedan, 2-door, 4-door, family car, SUV, stuff like that. Things that aren't brand specific. But when you go into Almira, right, or X-Trail, that's brand specific. And the final grouping category that you can step up to if you think you're comfortable there is competitor keywords. Now, it's a dog-eat-dog world. Sometimes someone's searching directly for your competitor and says, okay, well, I'm interested in buying a Nissan. And you decide, no, we are Mitsubishi. We want, anytime somebody searches for Nissan, we want our ad to show up because we want to take their customer. Right? That's very valuable. Welcome to everybody who just recently joined. Guys, if you have any questions about this, we're covering search engine marketing today. And that is the core of really what we're going to focus on. This is going to be a bit of a shorter presentation, but I'm very happy to go into specifics if anybody has any questions. Right? So let's recap. Right? Search engine marketing is the process of placing ads on search engines so that you catch the person right when they are looking for you, your product, or your service. Right? It works based on keywords that you enter, although Google, which is the largest and most popular search engine, will help you and suggest keywords based on your line of business. Right? Then you start to build the ad, and I'm going to get into the ad next. Right? We spoke about the types of keywords. There are exact match, phrase match, broad match modifier, and then broad match. Now, I got into those a little bit earlier. You guys can check out the replay and see the specific examples, but Google has tons of information out there. There's one other type of keyword that I didn't speak about, and that is negative keywords. And I actually want to give that a second to discuss it, because it's fairly important when you have things. A great example is Guardian newspaper and Guardian General, right? Or Guardian Insurance. You don't want, I think they're now Guardian Group, but if you are a Guardian newspaper, you don't want to spend money advertising to someone who's clearly looking for Guardian Insurance. So what you would do is you would submit a negative keyword that says, I don't want anything to do with insurance. So even if the word Guardian comes up, once there's insurance in the topics, it will take your ad out of the running, which means that you will not show your ad to what's a less relevant audience. One of the great things about keywords, and actually I should have mentioned this earlier, is that the search engine marketing does not cost you per keyword. It only costs you per click. So have thousands of keywords. It is great to I firmly believe a marketing strategy should always start with the widest possible net and then bring it in closer and closer until you refine exactly what you're looking for. So put all the keywords that Google suggests to you and use that as a learning experience. Go in there and see what's being clicked on, what has any search volume, what maybe is costing you a lot to strike a keyword for, and maybe you don't want that. Right? Phoenix Pro is asking, what are the main search engines to use for search engine marketing in TT, or the best search engine? Well, I've been talking a lot about Google for a good reason, Phoenix. The core of it is that most people use Chrome or Firefox, and most of them use Google by default. It is overwhelmingly the most popular search engine in the world, except out of China. And I don't know a lot of other brands locally that market on other search engines. That's not to say that it won't be valuable, but you want to go where the people go. So to answer your question, I think the main search engines you would focus on would be Google. And if you have budget and focus left over, I would say then maybe you want to go to Yahoo. Yahoo's a good search engine. Quite a lot of people have Yahoo emails. So those would be my top two, but definitely Google has an overwhelming majority there. Thanks for that question. It's a great question. So we're going to talk about the ads. So building an actual search engine, a search ad. It's pretty straightforward, but honestly, people often get a little bit tongue-tied, a little bit tied up, because the minute you ask them to come up with an ad, they're like, I don't know. And you have to really think about how do you get, what would you search for if you were looking for your product, right? Not your specific brand, but your product. If I'm looking for shoes, what would I search for? And think about that in a logical way. Okay, searching for shoes. I'm searching for men's shoes. And I might say I might be searching for men's shoes in a certain size. So search engine ads, especially for Google specifically, there are 3 headlines with 30 characters each. Now I know that doesn't mean anything to you guys right now, but that's fine. There's 2 descriptions at 90 characters each. And then finally you will have the URL. They have to point them in a direction and point them to somewhere. As I said before, the keywords don't cost you anything until they're clicked on. Neither do the ads. So it's one of those things where more is more. Build as many ads as you can. Make some super specific, make some not specific at all, very, very broad, and just build. Honestly, you can't really have too many ads until you realize that you do. I would say a good starting point is about 6 search ads. Try to segment your audiences by maybe gender, maybe demo age range, interest type, depending on the product that you have, you really want to focus on that. Or, as we said, they have keyword categories. So if you have your brand, maybe if someone has searched for your brand, they maybe have a little bit more information. So you can give them things like, hey, check us out here. If someone's searching for your category, in other words, I'm looking for shoes in general, not just Rob shoes, you would say, we have the best deals on something. And if someone's searching for your competitor, maybe you can use very specific things that are your unique selling proposition that your competitor does not have. And that's a good way to really focus on building your search engine marketing efficiency. And guys, that brings me to the end of it. I know it was a lot of dense information. Let me know if there's anything that you want me to go back over. I'm just going to recap it one last time before we call it a night. Search engine marketing, right? It's the process of finding a person right when they are looking for you on a search engine, right? It differs from display ads, which go on websites and things outside of that, and social ads, which would run on like Facebook and YouTube. It works via keywords, so focusing on keywords and what what words people would use to speak about your business, your category, and your competitors will be a good starting point to build that keyword list. I strongly suggest strongly suggest claiming your business on Google My Business, and to do that you go to business.google.com. The information there is super straightforward, but of course if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. It's a very simple process. You want to build as many ads as possible and as many keywords as possible, because casting a broad net will quickly let you know what works and what doesn't work, and search engine marketing works on a cost per click basis, so there's no drawback to adding more ads and more keywords than you think you need. So I'm just going to answer some questions here. We got a few that shot in at the same time. Superwoman Lizzie: hi Robert, I just want to clarify, the ads cover all other platforms your brand is present on also, correct? I would like a little bit of clarification there, like Pinterest or YouTube, etc. So if I understand correctly, if you're asking me where the ads show up, now search engine marketing will show up only on that search engine. There are search ads with display select that Google offers, but that only works on Google's display network, so it's slightly different. So the technical answer is no. Search engine ads will only show up on that search engine. So when you type in looking for shoes, size 6, the ads will show up just above the search results. Right? Phoenix Pro has asked, would you advise SEM over SMM? I'm assuming here that SMM stands for social media marketing. I think that, and that's a very good question, I think they really work hand in hand, because search engine marketing delivers very low volumes. If you think of how specific your business is and the search volumes that occur. So I used to work with an insurance company, and the search volumes would be in the low thousands per month. They would not be it's not going to get 1 million impressions. We'd get 20,000-30,000 impressions. So that's not great for brand awareness. It is great, as I said before, to catch the person right when they're looking for you. So that's a very valuable, sort of catching lightning in a bottle moment. So I would say that they go hand in hand. We did allocate more to search than we did for social media, but that's purely because of the focus, because it's lead generated, right? The brand was well known, and therefore awareness wasn't as important as gathering customers. Iconoclastic XX: what's a good CTR to optimize for based on your experience within TT? Iconoclast is a fantastic question, and it's very hard to say. So what I tend to do is I look up for a click-through rate for the industry that you'll find in the US, and we use that as a benchmark. Now it's a kind of a false flag, because our industries are so different, our audience is so much smaller than the US, that it's almost not relevant. But at least it's a line in the sand where you say, okay, normally people get 10%, 15% click-through rate. Now, my experience with the CTRs for Trinidad have been anywhere in the vicinity of 5 to 15%. It's usually wildly more than display ads, right? Because again, once your ads are relevant and your keywords are relevant, you will get clicks. So I would say that a good keyword rate, I would say between 5 and 15%. It is a large range, but that is because there's so many brands, there's so many categories. There's some categories that get very little search volume. And as a result, you may actually get very high click-through rates because there's nobody else there. So I hope that answers your question, iconoclastic. Um, Guys, but that brings me to the end here. I hope you take the step to at least claim your business on Google My Business. Take a minute to try and figure out your keywords. Work together with the last episode that we had for SEO and SEM and really strengthen your ability to be found. That's one of the biggest problems with entrepreneurs and brands that kick off, because they are like, if people only knew about me, I'd do well, I'd have tons of sales. And the problem is that there's fundamental stuff that's not very hard to fix, that they're just not getting really right. Alright? And that is SEO and SEM, and that's how they work together to make yourself be found. Because being found is half the battle. If people know about you, they will be able to find you, and when they find you exactly when they're looking for you, your chance of conversion into a sale, into a customer, into an opportunity is much higher. So guys, thank you again for sharing your time with me, right? And I hope you enjoyed me sharing my experience with you. So pick us up next week. We're going to have Marcus Braveboy, and the whole month of October we're actually going to switch the focus a little bit. We're going to be talking specifically to creatives and about how creatives can work better online. So whether you're a musician, a visual artist, anything like that, there is opportunity here. Check it out. Next month, October, is going to be all the creatives. So guys, thank you for your time, and I will see you next week.